All right. Hey, it's great to get a chance to talk to you. Oh, wow. You got the bass out, man.
Yeah, I got all my bases here. This is where I track when I do sessions and stuff.
So are you
Yeah.
working on a song now?
Nope.
Nope, just practicing.
I just yeah, I love playing more each day, and it's something that I just it's like second nature. Yeah.
So how does it feel to be back in Quiet Riot? I was really excited to hear that you were coming back to the band.
Are we rolling?
Yeah, we're good.
Oh, okay, good,
Sorry.
awesome. Yeah, I just want to make sure. Okay. uh, it's that's such a multi-layered question, and it depends what time of the day, which is early here. And so I just got up, so I'm just in this, I'm in between just dream. Even though I got up a few hours ago, I like to maintain that dream state. And so if you ask me the question early in the morning, I'm going to give you the answer, which is like the long version of it. Okay, I first joined the band in 1978. And there was what really separated Quiet Riot from all the other bands I had been in up until then, uh, was the fact that the sole purpose of the band was to get a record deal. That was the focus. It was not about playing top 40. It was not about just hanging out, doing parties and things like that. I'm pretty sure it could have been that at the very, very beginning. But by the time that I joined the band, 1978, the purpose was to get an American record deal, because the band already had, by the time I joined, they had recorded the second album, Quiet Riot 1 and 2, for Japan, but it had nothing to do with the United States. It's like it never happened. The band was still playing all the local clubs, just like every unsigned band, even though there was a record deal in Japan, which 40 years ago, we were not as global as we are today. So that was like, it's like having a record deal in Mars. It doesn't matter. So one of the things that became very, very clear to me was the driving factor. The unspoken leadership of the band was actually Randy Rhoads. Even though Kevin was very vocal, he had great ideas, but what really I gravitated towards was the musical integrity that Randy had from the very beginning, that I met him. And when I say the very beginning of his musical career also, because he was born into a musical family, professors, mom and dad, they had a music school, which still exists, Usonia. And so Randy was playing classical guitar, acoustic classical guitar, and reading music before he even picked up an electric guitar and started playing in a rock band. So it was all about music with Randy. And I had never played with another musician who had that background, that discipline,
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the discipline of being a musician. He was born into a musical family. His brother, Kelly, he's a musician too, So, and involved in academia, which is teacher. He was a teacher also. Never played with a musician who was I was in a band with who was actually a teacher at a real school, music school, So it was like, wow, this is different. This is a very different, and of course, it makes sense to me that by having that musical integrity, your focus was going to be to move up in your musical career, mm-hmm. Which is the next step was to get a record deal and become a professional musician, and wherever it takes you from there, and so Randy had the musical integrity, and Kevin had the tenacity. He was very tenacious, so it was a perfect blend to have those qualities in the band. And that's something that I will always carry with me from those early days in Quiet Riot. And so I, Quiet Riot breaks up when Randy Rhoads leaves to join Ozzy. And then Kevin, being tenacious, kept it going under his own name, called the band called DuBrow. As a matter of fact, there's a book out now. It's called Keep on Rolling. The text was written by the DuBrow, and then later on the Quiet Riot, Mental Health version of Quiet Riot fan club president, Missy Whitney. And she wrote the text, and she kept records, and she kept like all of these postcards and fan club letters that she would send out to the fan club.
That's cool.
Back in 1980, 81, 82, actually, also, because that's when the record Mental Health was recorded. And so having those qualities, like I mentioned, the continuation into DuBrow, and then I started playing in DuBrow a few months before I moved in with Kevin right before I joined Ozzy. So when I joined Ozzy, there's Randy again. Now he had taken his musical integrity to a whole different level, because now he is in a recording, band playing with Ozzy. He doesn't have to like trying to compromise his musical integrity and try to please record companies by writing music that didn't come from the heart. Writing music just for the purpose of getting a record deal, not because this is what you really want to play. Once he joined Ozzy, he asked Ozzy, "What do you want me to write?" And Ozzy said, "Just be yourself." And that's where all that music came from. It would have never happened in LA because we were too constrained by the industry. So
Sure.
Randy had to go over to England, join an artist already had a record deal, and the artist Ozzy gave him total creative freedom, including the classical piece, the instrumental. The record company did not want it on the record, and Ozzy had to fight to get that on the record.
It's amazing. You can't imagine that not being on that album.
I know, but record companies, they
sure.
yeah, it's basically one person's opinion.
Yeah,
sure. The record company, it's usually one person's opinion, what goes and what doesn't go, And so once I joined Ozzy, I experienced a whole new level of Randy, to the point that when he got nominated as the #1 new guitar player in Guitar Player magazine, he got his award December 30th, 1981, backstage at the Cow Palace in San Francisco, right before we did the first show of the Diary of a Madman tour.
Wow.
And so now he realizes that people are paying attention to what he's creating and what he's recording. So now he goes on a whole different journey. He would get the yellow pages of every, let's say we arrive in Des Moines, Iowa. He would get we go to the breakfast room, get some breakfast. He grabbed the yellow pages and started looking for a music school so he could take classical lessons. Most of the times, he would wind up teaching whoever the teacher was how to play, because Randy was usually above the level of a local guitar teacher, in any town USA, and wind up paying for the lesson himself, And then there came a time where Randy actually quit Ozzy because he wanted to go back to school to get his master's degree. I'm pretty sure once he got his master's, he was going to get his doctor's and just keep going, because so I've never met a rock star, a legend in the making, after Randy, who actually quit to go back to school. Now, if that's not musical integrity.
Yeah, and it's amazing, that he was so ambitious, and then, like you said, he would go take these classes with a guitar teacher. I mean, that's impressive, because he's taking a chance that he might learn something new from someone else.
Oh, sure.
Probably didn't, like you say, probably more often than not, he taught them. But that's still impressive that he was always trying to reach a little farther, learn something new, to add to his his musical ability. So yeah,
That
it's a fantastic
that
story.
yes, that's an interesting observation because I at one point I started teaching at Smithsonian myself.
Oh,
Randy
really?
invited me, and he taught me how to teach, and that was one of the key points. Learning from your students because they're always going to look at things in a completely different point of view,
Sure.
perception of things. So you always have the opportunity to learn from even your own students because they're doing things a little bit different than you are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You can learn something from anyone.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
listen, if you pay attention
yeah,
and listen. So yeah, that's you and
yeah.
Randy were
So
so tight, and I mean that was such an amazing
yeah,
time period to be there, sort of at the beginning of Ozzy's solo career like that, and you
yeah,
guys together after working together in Quiet Riot. I mean that must have
yeah,
been mind blowing for you guys.
yeah. Yeah, so just to cap the answer, which I told you was going to be a long one.
Sure.
Uh, Once Randy passed away in 1982, I lost my Quiet Riot, that nucleus, that consciousness
Yeah.
in the band, because by the time that I started playing with Ozzy and Tommy Aldridge, they were already mature. They had a mature, a solid career. Of course, Ozzy with Black Sabbath, he had been doing it for 16 years prior to going solo.
Sure.
And then Tommy Aldridge, the same thing. They had Black Sabbath and Black Oak, Arkansas used to tour together. And so he knew Ozzy from then. I mean, these were musicians that were kind of like settle, and this is what they do, and this is how they do it.
Sure.
Whereas with Randy and I, we're just finding our way,
Yeah.
through it. We were
You're
not
at the
settled
beginning
into
of that
anything.
part. I mean, you
Yeah,
guys, you're a legend now. I mean,
yeah,
of course,
yeah. But
Randy is too, but it's just, everybody has to start somewhere. So you were still in that
yeah,
really
yeah,
hungry.
we're finding our way into the system,
Yeah.
the industry, whatever. you know so once I lost Randy, which was my reference as to any going back to my Quiet Riot family, uh I lost the joy of playing. And 41 years ago, I didn't have the tools to really understand what I was going through or what everybody else was going through, because we never really had the time to go through the process, and of losing somebody and going through the stages of it, and because we had to go back out again on tour about 10 days after the crash happened. And so I get a phone call right before I was scheduled to go in to record Speak of the Devil,
Mhm.
which is the Ozzy Black Sabbath re-recordings in New York City at the Ritz. So I get a phone call from Kevin, and he says, "Hey man, would you like to come down and record on Thunderbird?" Now, Thunderbird is a song that Kevin wrote in DuBrow when Randy left Quiet Riot. And I used to play that song in DuBrow, and that what you hear of the records, what I used to play live, in DuBrow. So, anyways, I knew the song, and then I would go down there, and there's Frankie Banali playing drums. Now, Frankie and I went back 10 years before 1982. We met on my birthday, November 18, 1972. And we left Florida pretty much together at the same time. We wound up in Chicago. We started playing the whole Midwest circuit, then moved to LA in 77. And we run out of money. We separated. Then I came back in 78, and that's when I joined Quiet Riot. So it took me that long, 10 years, to actually get in the studio to record with Frankie Banali. The band wasn't even named Quiet Riot again. It was just DuBrow at the time.
Sure.
And Carlos Cavazo, who I never really met before, but I heard of him because of his band Snow.
Yeah.
But Kevin, who I was living with Kevin before I joined Ozzy, up to the day that I joined Ozzy. And I was with him, and a member of DuBrow and Quiet Riot, the Randy Rhoads era. So there's my familiarity. There it is back again. in the studio. So we cut Thunderbird, and there was enough time to cut 3 or 4 more tracks. And by the time I left the session, it was like, wow, that was fun. That was great. Back, I got my family back. And so within a few days, I went out to New York to record Speak of the Devil. And that thought, the joy of making music with Frankie and Kevin, and of course Carlos, but I really did not know Carlos that well. It just lingered, and I recorded the live record, came back home to LA, and made the toughest decision of my life, which was to, career wise, which was to leave Ozzy for the total unknown. But I knew one thing: I was gonna be happy. I was gonna be happy playing again. Yeah,
That's an awesome.
And there you have it. So that's what Quiet Riot means to me. It's home, completely home. It's the band that I always took a little bit of, no matter what I did. I mean, even with Ozzy, and this was subliminal, because the only thing we knew was to be ourselves. Randy only knew what it was like. His only reference was to be in Quiet Riot. So when he started playing with Ozzy, it was still the same Randy.
Yeah.
On stage from Quiet Riot. If you look at photos of us in Quiet Riot playing clubs in LA, and you look at a photo of Randy in some arena, it's the same passion.
Yeah.
It was, it didn't matter if there were 50 people for Quiet Riot or if there were like 5,000 for Ozzy. It didn't matter. It was that same passion that came out of him, And so when you look at that version of Randy and me on stage, that's half of Quiet Riot, with a guy from Black Sabbath and a guy from Black.
So I think I know the answer. I think I know the answer to that, but I would assume that Randy's, just his ambition and workmanship probably rubbed off on you a little bit.
Or me?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is what I've been talking about. All of that. I mean, you have 2 choices. You can either be in a coma and ignore it, or you could really. It's right there in front of you. It's right in front of your face. It's like, wow. So this is how it's done. This is how you get to the top, personally and collectively as a band. You gotta have these qualities in the band somehow.
So during that time period, I have to ask this question just because we're talking about it, but during the time you were with Ozzy in the solo band with Randy, there must have been some interesting stories. What's the craziest Ozzy story that you have from that time period?
Okay.
That you can tell.
Well, I wrote a book about it. It's called Off the Rails. Off the Rails. And the reason why I wrote it is because you're going to ask me a question, and we only got so much time for me to give you a proper explanation. So I wrote, it took me over 300 pages to answer your question.
That is a great book. That is a great book, by the way. So maybe we should just tell everybody to read your book.
Well, I mean, if you really want to get a clear answer to your question, which is the reason your question has been asked when I travel all over the world, when I'm on tour so many times that they're like, okay, I'm going to address that question, because I would always walk away from telling them like one, and I go, oh no, I should have told him this one too, and that one, and then he's like, I don't have enough time. I'm on my way to sound check, and somebody approaches me in the lobby of the hotel, as I'm signing an album, they ask me, so tell me something about what was it like to play with Randy Rhoads. And as I'm walking towards the vehicle that's going to take me to sound check, I'm trying to explain to them, encapsulate it. So it's never fulfilling for them or for me. I figure, you know what? Let me put this in a book. It took me a year and a half out of my life to do it, and I gotta tell you, it was definitely worth it. The rewarding experience of writing the book and doing that for Randy, it's priceless.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, even though it had been many years since Randy passed, it still give you a chance to kind of maybe come to grips with some of those feelings over the years. It's like you said, you threw yourself right back in, you went right back out, you started playing. Ozzy did the same thing. You know, it was just go back to what you're doing and, you know, just keep trucking ahead. But I'm sure when you were, you know, working on this book, surely some of that stuff come back in your memory,
Yeah.
emotions that maybe you kind of just pushed aside and kept going.
Yeah, it's interesting because and I don't mean this in any demeaning way or anything. You know, the way you just explained it, was so, you know, was so light.
Yeah.
Like it was like it was like completely disconnected from any emotional value
Yeah.
as far as why, for example, why I left Ozzy, because Randy had died.
Yeah.
And I lost the joy of making music in the band. So I took the biggest risk I ever took in my career to leave one of the biggest bands in the world to find happiness playing it again with Quiet Riot, with Frankie Banali and Kevin DuBrow, which I knew that I had a history with. They were part of my family coming up musically. It wasn't a light-hearted decision. It was not light-hearted to go on stage every night after Randy passed and walk on stage and everything is the same except Randy's not there, and you see a crowd with banners. Every show became a wake for Randy. Yeah, it was really heavy, really heavy.
Yeah.
So it
It'd
was
only be
it was
loss. I mean, you can only
yeah,
describe that as loss, I assume, to look over to that side of the stage, and it's just not
yeah.
the same. Yeah.
I played Madison Square Garden, and I couldn't even look at the audience. All I could, or I just put my head down and I cried through the whole show.
Wow.
You know, so it was never ever. It has never ever been since Randy's crash business as usual.
Yeah.
Not in my playing. No, it changed everything for me.
Yeah.
It was never again business as usual. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm glad for one that you continue to play. I
Mhm.
enjoy all of your work. You know, you've been quite the journeyman as far as
Mhm.
playing with other, you know, great bands. Obviously, with Whitesnake, a lot of side projects.
Mhm.
You know, back when I was a teenager, I got the Project Mars album mostly because you were on it.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just great to have you, you know, continue doing what you do so well. Back in Quiet Riot again too. I think that's great for
Mhm.
the band and for the face of Quiet Riot. You know, to
Mhm.
have you back with Frankie and Kevin gone. And that must be a little strange too, you know, to be playing with Quiet Riot and, you know, not having those guys there. Um,
Mhm.
but I think it is, you are a welcome face to the audience, you know, to have you back with Quiet Riot. So I'm looking forward to catching a live show, hopefully with you and the band before long. Um,
Absolutely. You got to come down.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you about on a personal level. I know excuse me, I'm friends with you on Facebook, and you post a lot of things on animal rescue, um,
Mhm.
and that seems like something you're really, you know, that you have a passion for, is you know, animals that need homes and shelter animals and things.
Mhm.
Can you elaborate on that just a little bit? I mean, is that just
Oh no, it's yeah, it's very simple, and I hope more people get to do this. Is you know, when I go on social media, whether it's Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, which are the main ones that I go to, uh, through my feed,
Mhm.
there's a lot of rescue that comes through. So all I do is reshare.
I see.
I mean, I associated, not that I do anything on a
Yeah.
daily basis, but I am affiliated with
Well, you have a large
certain.
audience. You have a lot
uh,
of people that are going to see that message. So, you know,
yes,
that,
yes.
that
So
you,
what I do is I just create awareness that there's certain rescues available And hopefully if the person that gets it through the feed will do the same thing. If they're not, if for some reason, if they're not looking to adapt at the time, just pass it on.
Yeah.
And eventually somebody will connect with that and be able to rescue.
So do you have a lot of pets yourself, or are you too busy?
Just one.
Just one?
Just one. One at a time. Yeah.
Yeah, it would probably be quite difficult, going out and about quite so often to be able to really
Yeah,
talk with an
it's
animal very well.
it's basically, yeah, we've always had one pet at a time. We've been married for over 38 years now,
Wow,
and
congratulations.
we keep it that way. Yeah, thanks. It has a lot to do with the fact that I'm not home. I am not home all the time, so I don't want to burden my wife with having to take care of multiple pets.
Well, you come from a musical family too. You were talking about Randy, but I'm fans of your brother as well. Loved Hurricane, loved what Robert's doing. He's still doing it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, there's musical families, and then there's musical families like in my family, it will be my brother and me. Then we have like distant uncles and cousins who were in the entertainment industry. But with Randy, it was actually the parents,
Yeah.
the mother and father, who were professors and started a music school involved in academia and many other things, and
Ingrained
his
in him.
brother too. So it's a little bit different than my brother and me one day watching the Beatles on Ed Sullivan Show, and that being the trigger, for us to start playing, instead of being born into a family that with or without the Beatles, that person would have been a musician.
So one last question, I think, because I don't want to keep you too long. I know you have other interviews you're doing today, but what is the most important thing to you at this point in your career?
Ooh, most important thing. Okay, career-wise, which is, it's not. I'm not going to talk about my family, because that to me is,
Sure.
the most important thing. But career-wise, so actually, at this point in my life, after so many years of doing this, and there's always something new that I learn every day, and I just love it. It's to celebrate the legacy of Choir Riot and the memory of Frankie Banali, Kevin DuBrow, and Randy Rhoads. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Of course, to be creative.
Yeah.
That's it. But I do a lot of projects, and like we have a new song that's out, and
which is
we still
awesome, by
have.
the way. That
Thank
song
you so
is
much. Yeah,
the video. Oh my gosh, the video
I
is
know.
heartbreaking.
I know. Yeah. Regina Banali, Frankie's wife. She's she's the filmmaker that did the Now You're Here. There's No Way Back.
Yeah.
Okay, the Choir Riot, that basically Frankie documentary, and she did that. She did a beautiful job, and she did this just a beautiful, heartfelt video to go along with the song.
Yeah, that
And
song.
and to yeah,
That song is so amazing that it sort of really hits you right there. When it comes to the loss of both of those guys, I know that song's kind of been long lost. I mean, because Kevin's been gone for a while, but it's so fitting, like as a song after they're gone. I mean, when I might not would have connected it, but with that video, it really brought it home of like, wow, this is kind of like he always did Thunderbird, for Randy. It's kind of like this is the song for Kevin and Frankie,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's for all of them who are no longer here with us, who are our Choir Riot family, brothers. And since it all came in pieces, first Alex found the song that he had written with Kevin. And then when I joined the band, we were looking for material, and Alex discovered it, because he had just put it away on his drive and forgot about it. And then, I got this song, right? So I played on it, and it sat there for a while Regina was putting together the footage. And like the footage that you see of Frankie and me, that's Frankie telling me that he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
Mhm.
That she caught the moment. I was not aware of it, of course, but Regina, being a filmmaker, that's like
Sure.
second nature for her to capture the moment. And at that moment, it's like, okay, you're filled with, you're gonna beat this, and that's the attitude. It's very incredibly intense, but the hope and the faith that the person is going to beat it, it's larger. It's the largest emotion that you have in you.
Yeah, and
So
he seemed to have that attitude all the way through,
yeah. And so, that was in 2019, in April 2019, and then Frankie passed away August 20th, 2020. And it's such an emotional ride. I mean, I already have experienced something like that with Ronnie James Dio.
Sure.
I was his last bass player in the band Dio, and the ups and downs, the hopes, and they're like, oh, it looks like it's in remission, and then
Sure.
boom,
Roller coaster of emotion, I'm sure.
yeah. Yeah. So once the song and the video came together, I watched it for the first time. I gotta tell you, I haven't watched it too many times because it always, it just rips
Oh yeah,
rips my
it's a
heart out,
tearjerker.
Yeah, it is. I mean, especially having been there, because what happens is I watch the video, but I'm not watching the video anymore. I'm actually in the moment
Yeah.
experiencing what the video is showing
Yeah.
me,
Yeah, it's like a whole
And-
flashback of memories, I'm sure, and
yeah,
conversations, and very
absolutely.
personal for you,
So
I'm sure.
I looked at the video, and somebody asked me, what do I think about the video? And I said, you know what? It encapsulates exactly why I came back to the band and why we as Quiet Riot continue.
Yeah.
It's just, there's no need to explain it. You watch that video, you'll know.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I thank you so much for taking your time out. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of your work.
Thank you.
Had posters on my wall of you.
I see one right behind you right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. When I was a teenager, I had my walls plastered with Quiet Riot and with White Snake and everything. So yeah, pleasure to get the chance to actually sit down
Thank you.
and talk with you one
Thank
on
you
one
so
for a
much.
few minutes.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Thank
I
you so much.
appreciate it, Rudy.
Thank you.
All right,
Really
have a
enjoyed
great
it.
one.
Thank you.
All right,
Okay. Bye-bye.
bye bye.
Bye-bye.